always tells a story. Let's have a close look.
Hello, welcome to Close Look. I am Daniel Westbay, joined by
Stefania of
Stefania. We've known each other for a long time. Kind of. She's just agreeing now. I'm at what location are we at, and what do you do here?
So we're at our MindfulMutts dog daycare, and we're at our flagship location that's in the Sapperton area of New Westminster. So we're a low-stress dog daycare, which means that we implement fear-free measures into our everyday routines with dogs, which doesn't mean a lot to your average Joe, but what it basically means is we consider the dog's emotional and mental well-being as much as their physical. So we have to consider things really carefully about the environment and how we're handling them and different environmental aspects of their time while they're with us.
Wow, no, that's fantastic. I think that this is important to have, and we need more places like this. We were just discussing off camera, you have some dogs here that you've kind of like prematurely adopt. I mean, really, that's how we all end up with dogs. That's how I ended up with a dog. So how did you come about with this plan of MindfulMutts? Like, where was the sparks? Where were you when it all happened?
So I think that the initial beginning point for me was when I was trying to get into the industry and I didn't really know which direction to go into. So it's completely unregulated, which is a little bit strange to me considering that dogs are considered our family members. They have better clothes than we do have nowadays. They have better diets than we do have a lot of the time, our own selves nowadays. So it's really strange to me that we put this much effort and energy and money towards things that are superficial in that sense, but not necessarily in the sense of the well-being of who our caretakers are for our pets. So grooming, dog daycare, dog walking, dog training are all dangerously unregulated. And so I was trying to get into the industry at the time, about 6 years ago, and this is when I kind of discovered this because I was seeing some behind-the-scenes stuff that was not so pretty. And I decided that I needed to just stop trying to pursue working for somebody else and take matters into my own hands. And I thought, there's got to be a better way to do dog daycare, and so I kind of just trial and errored as I went through, and now we kind of have this well-oiled machine where we know all of our boundaries, we know our policies, we know there's a reason for implementing them, and people come from all over the Lower Mainland to drop their dogs off to us on a daily basis. So it's kind of nice to have that. It's almost like a symbol of we've done something right, which is nice because people don't just drop off their dogs from the neighborhood. They come in from like North Vancouver and East Vancouver and the Fraser Valley. So it's really nice to see people putting more effort and attention and focus into looking at who the caregivers are for their pets.
Pets are certainly important. I know to me, I actually, and this could be on TV everywhere, I actually like pets more than I like humans.
This is not uncommon in our world to hear. And I think that goes for a lot of us that work with them, especially at MindfulMutts. But the kind of interesting thing about working with dogs is as much as you might like animals more than people, you still have to like people and you have to be good with people because we're dealing with the people as much as we are with their dogs. So ideally, it would be really cool if we were just kind of paid to like snuggle puppies all day and not really interact much with anyone or anything. I mean, I think any one of us would do that. Nobody would say no. But it is really nice. We have like a really nice group of clientele who it's very, very clear that they are very dedicated to their dogs and they're very, very, I kind of love saying that they spoil their dogs. Our clients spoil their dogs majorly in a big way. And it shows and I love that.
It's great. I love it too. I would you spoil your dogs.
I spoil my dogs, but I'll be honest, I don't spoil them as much as I could. But the problem is for me being the owner, anything that we bring into the store, so I have access to all these like wholesalers and catalogs online, and the second we bring things in, I buy one of everything for each of my dogs. So I have learned to restrain myself and plan ahead for purchases and such.
Now, before MindfulMutts, when you were a kid, did you always want to do this? Did you always want to be involved in animal, something like a veterinary or something like that?
So interestingly enough, I would say yes, but I was actually mortally, is that a word? I was morbidly afraid. I was morbidly afraid of dogs until I was maybe about 7 or 8 years old. I had been bitten by one when we were on a campsite, I think maybe when I was 5 or so. And so from there, I was so terrified of them that I would hide behind my dad if I saw one walking like 2 blocks away. But over time, we got our own dog. We got other animals in the home, other cats and stuff. And I kind of just learned to love them in a different type of way. I always kind of loved them from afar. And I was a super weirdo kid, so everybody else at Halloween was collecting for UNICEF, and I would go to the SPCA and get one of their stickers and make my own donation can. And I would competitively collect for the SPCA while my friends were collecting for UNICEF. And I didn't always come out on top, but I remember there being a little bit of a controversy about dogs versus UNICEF for a little while there. Yes. But I did my best, and so that's kind of where it kind of spiraled. So I wanted to do something with animals. I wasn't sure what that was going to be yet, but I knew from probably pretty early on my life revolved around them, and it was just something that I kind of was destined to fall into in some way eventually.
Wow. So then, did your parents play a huge part in this, or did they like the direction that you were going? I'm just curious. I want to know the story of Stefania, where everything. Yeah.
Good questions. So I had no involvement from my parents whatsoever. This was a solo Stefania project. In fact, my dad actually lives overseas, so he's hugely supportive. He's on Facebook, so he shares and likes everything that my business says and does, and he's like a biggest fan from afar. But he's from quite far away, and I don't know, I started MindfulMutts at, I don't know, I think I was about 30 when it all kind of came to fruition and kind of happened. So I already kind of felt like I'd been independent for a while, and I kind of needed to do something on my own. So it was all me. Of course, my husband also did help. He did help. He helps to this day. He taxis the dogs around everywhere he goes.
I like that you make that very.
I'm going to make sure that I give some credit where it's supposed to go before I forget. But other than that, it was all me. I remember having the idea, and I remember working at another company at the time, and I remember grabbing a Post-it, and I knew that I was going to be quitting so that I could pursue my own idea here. And I knew what the logo was going to look like, so I actually drew it on a Post-it, and then I sent a picture of it to a local artist here in New West who's a graphic designer. And he made it within like an hour's time, and that was the logo that we've stuck with forever. I like the logo. It's awesome. I love my logo. It's literally all over everything that we do. It's on my hat. So it's a peace sign, it's a heart, it's a paw, it's all the colors of the rainbow, which are all of my favorite colors. I don't have a single favorite one. So it kind of was just like everything Stefania in one place. Yeah, that's kind of how MindfulMutts kind of happened. I needed to do something to help animals, and I needed to make sure that I was making a difference in how it was being done. And I needed to do something for myself. I needed to be my own project.
Mm-hmm. Do you find that, like, so you have MindfulMutts, do you try to work with other organizations? Because there are so many, I don't want to say misplaced, but like dogs without homes and stuff like that. Do you work with other organizations to help them find a home?
We definitely do. So we will definitely participate in work together with different rescues and shelters. The only thing that we like to make sure that we're very clear about is, as much as our industry is unregulated, thus is also the rescue industry. Oh, really? And so we're a little bit more careful and kind of maybe quieter about who and how we support, but we are always participating in some activity somewhere, raising money or awareness for some organization. There's a few really great ones in the Lower Mainland, and just doing a little bit of research will help you learn which ones are kind of registered with the government and which ones are doing things in a way that they're considering the actual mental state and safety of the animals and the people they're being adopted to. So there's a huge aspect there that's like a whole other topic for another day, Daniel. But yeah, we definitely do. Here in New Westminster, we actually have a really great progressive animal shelter. The New Westminster Animal Shelter is actually awesome. So if anything, there's always the New Westminster Animal Shelter that we'll turn to if we need to put on an event because we just haven't done one in a while and we need to fundraise for someone or something. They're a great option. And there's lots of other ones too, and I wouldn't even know how to list them because there are so many of them.
So that brings, actually, you spoke very highly of New West. I'm a New West person also. She is. Why New West?
So I think maybe, I don't know, 15, 18 years ago, I moved to New West and kind of intermittently had gone back to East Van a couple of times where I was born and raised. And initially I moved out here because it was really inexpensive compared to the Vancouver area and stuff like that. And just as I had moved here, things started to change around the town. Newer buildings were going up, cute little retail shops were popping up, great new restaurants were showing up, and all sorts of other businesses were just kind of looking like they were beginning to flourish here. So at that point, I had already lived in New West for maybe a decade. I was interested in kind of sticking in the neighborhood that I lived in and kind of worked and was already working in. And New West was just a community that was really supportive and encouraging. Everybody wants to see each other succeed. Everybody wants to participate in everyone's events. And so it was kind of easy to just put myself out there because it was a little bit of a bubble that I was already a part of. So even if I failed, it wouldn't have been that bad because the community is always so kind and uplifting. And I just kind of decided to stay here. And so we've got our Saperton location, and then about 2 and a couple months ago-ish, years ago, we opened our second location in the downtown New West area at 6th and Columbia. And yeah, we literally did not want to leave New West because we were literally, we as in me, I will be very clear here, I was very uncomfortable with leaving my happy little bubble of safety. But it's a good practice. We wanted to know what it was going to be like to open a second location and have a little bit more wiggle room to kind of move around and have a little bit more opportunity to try new things and to try to replicate and duplicate certain things so that we knew what it would be like going bigger in a different community outside of the municipality of New Westminster eventually. And so eventually that'll be the idea. We want to open more locations, we want to grow, we want to keep growing, we want our staff to grow with us, we want our clients to have as much that they can get out of us. So we're in New West only right now, but it's one day hopefully I'll get courageous enough to leave.
No, actually, that leads me to another question. And you just said failures and stuff like that. If you don't follow her on Instagram, we're going to give you all that fun stuff at the end because you should, because this woman is literally everywhere. And she does it all on a bike. So
Literally everywhere on a bike. This is true.
But did you fail? Like, did this business, when it first started, did you find that it was hard to start?
Yes.
Or did it just...
The quick answer is yes. There's no such thing, I think, as starting a business and it just comes easily. I think entrepreneurs of any type of business have to work really, really hard. And there's also this aspect of when you have to pay rent and you're in a brick and mortar space, and then you become responsible for employees and payroll expenses, and the list just kind of continues to grow. And I've flubbed up literally every aspect of it, from painting the walls to how payroll is done, to how to submit your PST returns. Literally nothing ever goes exactly as planned, and I think those are the best learning lessons. I tend to acknowledge those openly with my peers and with my family and with some of my colleagues and coworkers, because I think it's a huge impact on me to be able to say, look, I did this thing and I totally failed at it. I completely bombed. It didn't work out. We had to cancel the event, or I had to repaint the entire wall. In hindsight, I can look back and be like, well, I wouldn't do it that way next time. I would definitely do it this way because that's what obviously would have worked. So failure is, I think, maybe a stepping stone, in my opinion, to, as long as you acknowledge it and recognize it and appreciate what the failure is teaching you, it can bring you to the next level as an entrepreneur and as a business person.
Failure is definitely something, and that's why I ask, because I feel like you have to kind of go through these failures to flourish something, you know, something like this. Did you know that that was all going to happen? Or did you, was this vision that's happening right now your grand vision, or did you have something else in mind?
Interesting question. I didn't really know if I had like any particular type of vision in particular that I was aiming for outside of daycare itself. I knew that I had higher goals that I wanted to achieve over time, but some of my failed attempts at certain things have knocked me back a few steps, and I've had to restart and try again and start over in a few aspects. So there's definitely more that I wanted to do. I wanted to maybe continue more education, for example. I wanted to elevate a little bit more of my professional life by going to a few more conferences and that sort of thing. But these things are all really financially hard and time consuming. And then when you're kind of stuck to like a specific space and location, it can be hard to move around and get to places. But initially we were supposed to be just a daycare, but that wasn't enough to kind of keep things afloat. So we decided to add training classes, and that was enough. But once we opened a second location, it's a different area, it's a busier area, so the rent is certainly a different...
That's a beast of its own.
Yes, we'll say that. Totally different ballgame, basically. So we had to get a little bit more creative, and then we kind of just became like a place where just all things dogs can happen. Training and different classes for people that they can take in order to better their lives for their pets, like pet first aid, for example. We do whatever it is that we can kind of do to bring the community together and to learn about their dogs and to build a better relationship between themselves and their dogs. And so I guess in some ways, it's everything and more that we want it to be, and in some ways, it's not enough. We're not finished yet.
So then let's get to what kind, so you mentioned classes. So what does MindfulMutts offer? By the way, awesome name. How did you come up with the Mindful, how did you come up with MindfulMutts, and then what kind of classes do you offer?
Okay, I don't know how I came up with MindfulMutts, but I knew I didn't want to be anything puppy or canine, and there's nothing wrong with those things, I just wanted to stand out. And there's a lot of companies that, because we're all kind of emphasizing the positive reinforcement aspect about what we do, it's kind of this big turnaround in the industry that everybody is now finally using the same methods of training and handling animals within our group of colleagues in any case. Certainly not everybody, everyone's still encouraged to do their homework. But I wanted to make sure that it kind of took my personality and the way that we are going to be working with animals on a day-to-day basis and kind of mesh them together. So I tried a number of different combinations, but and actually MindfulMutts was the least voted for amongst my friends. I polled everyone. They didn't think the M alliteration was strong enough. They wanted like canine something because canine carefree,
yeah.
I don't know. There's not a good example, but they wanted something that was a little bit more.
So what was, do you remember the name that was voted the most?
I don't actually. I like completely forgot entirely.
No, that's fine.
Yeah.
She just doesn't want to say it. It's okay.
I don't remember. I don't remember even. So I don't remember what it was. But yeah, MindfulMutts was what is the least, but I was like, I like this one the best. And I'm kind of one of those people that if you tell me the opposite of something and I kind of feel strongly about it, I have to work extra hard to show you that it worked better anyways. So there you go. So MindfulMutts ended up working out because I really needed it to.
It's a great name. So what were the classes that you guys, because CPR, I remember the last time that I was with her, we did a vignette for a stint, and you kind of give us a crash course of CPR.
Crash would be a good word to use. So we teach pet first aid classes. So I'm a pet first aid certified instructor through Walks and Wags, which is like your local kind of nationally recognized pet first aid certification. And then we have puppy socials, which are basically puppy parties. They're for dogs under 5.5 months. They're basically just intended to come and socialize with each other in a supervised space. It's really, really cute. We Instagram about it. It's the cutest part of our entire week is seeing like 3 or 4 or 5 tiny little 3 or 4 month old puppies just wrestling and tossing each other around the room and smashing into walls. It's kind of the best thing I've ever seen. And then the next level up is the more formalized puppy class, which is puppy socialization and exploration, which is structured, and you kind of have to sign up for a few weeks in a row, and you have to go through, and you have homework to do with your dog and stuff like that. A little bit more formal.
It's like a puppy class.
Yeah, your average puppy class. And then from there we go the 5.5 months, or anybody can do the level 1 basic manners, and that's with, we have 2 awesome trainers who are both certified positive trainers, which is awesome. They have ongoing classes literally all the time, and they're addicted to teaching classes, I think, and also addicted to dogs. So it's a really good thing to do, to sign up with them, because they are really, really happy people when they get to play with puppies. You'll never see happier people than these 2 people. Maybe me, I don't know.
Do you see a lot of dogs that are a little like, whoa, why? Like when they first come here, are dogs a little apprehensive?
Some dogs. So we're really careful about screening. So our whole thing that we're known for is like really, really careful screening process, and being very particular about which dogs we accept and are welcome to be within the space for like daycare hours. So typically puppies under 5 months old, it's a given. They're going to fit right in. They're going to have a party. They're going to have a really good time. They're going to be really cute on Instagram, and the guardians are going to get like the best report card of their lives for the first few months, because that's puppydom, right? Dogs who are over 6 months, or really, over a year, but even over 6 months, we're usually a little bit more cautious about that. So we are a little bit more careful in how we screen. We meet before they even start daycare, almost like we're interviewing them for a kid's daycare. But we give the clients the opportunity to interview us as much as we interview them, and then we tour the facilities and stuff like that. So we watch the dog, and we watch the relationship between the dog and the people, and it's not that we're looking for anything necessarily in particular. We just want to see that the dog is comfortable being handled, that the dog is not too easily startled by things that are happening in the area while it's quiet. If a dog is terribly uncomfortable and showing signs of stress or anxiety because a gate opens or because a new person walks in the room, it's going to be really difficult to manage that dog in a group, and they could be quite unhappy in it. So we usually would kind of opt out or try other options, or maybe do a slow enrollment of some sort. Yeah. But so we definitely see dogs who, of all different walks of life, and some of them work out great for something like daycare, whether it's our facility or another facility, another company's. But I would say probably majority of the dogs out there would prefer not to be in a space like this, which is why we have such small numbers. It's a lot less stressful for the dogs that way. It's easier to manage for the people who are working as well. It's safer for us to manage a smaller group. Because you can see everything and you're always within reach of someone and something. But it's also, because we don't need everybody just piling their dogs in here. We really just want dogs who want to be in here, who aren't just terrified and tolerating being here. We want them to actually come in and have fun. So if they're not excited about coming in here when it's a time like this, when it's quiet and there's nothing really happening, it's usually a sign that they're not going to be into it, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that. There's also dog walking. There's group hikes. We have a couple of companies that we refer to for that sort of thing. So if your dog's off leash and likes to just go, jaunting in the woods, I don't offer that service because I'm an indoor person. I'm not really a going into the woods kind of person, but there are some people who do a really good job at that. So there's different services that kind of work for different dogs, and I think that that's a really important aspect to take away for anybody with a dog. If your dog doesn't like dog daycare and you hear that from your daycare providers, don't take it as an insult. Take it as a thank you for letting me know my dog was not happy while here, so that we don't have to continue to give you our hard-earned dollars for our dog to be stressed out all day. Fair. Right?
Fair. All right, we've reached the part where she gets to plug whatever she wants. So where can they find you for any of this cool information?
Okay, so mindfulmutts.ca has all the links to everything pretty much, including some educational stuff if anybody wants to know a little bit more about different certifications that you can get to learn more about dogs, or if you're interested in becoming like a dog walker or working at a dog daycare or in some aspect, we even include links like that. But we also are a lot of fun on social media. On Instagram, we're at MindfulMutts. We're on Twitter. I don't really know how to use it right, so we retweet a lot of things. It's at MindfulMutts also. And we are also on Facebook, which you can just Google Mindful Mutts on there, or search Mindful Mutts on Facebook, and you'll find us easily. And we are trying TikTok. It's not going very well, but at Mindful Mutts.
I love it. Thank you, Stefania, for being on the show. I appreciate it so much. If you have any cool stories like Stefania or somebody else, or want to be on podcasts, Sweet Culture on Sundays, you can go to www.closelook.ca. And yeah, I look forward to talking to more people. Have a great day.